So I'm here in New York to take a look at one of the most historical documents on the planet, an original Declaration of Independence broadside. There's probably only 20 left in private hands, and I'm about to take a look at one right now.
The Declaration of Independence. Rick hates spending a lot of money on pawned items because that just increases the level of risk he takes on. Imagine buying an item for $1 million and only selling for half that. But sometimes some artifacts are just so good that Rick has to take the chance and spend the money. And that is precisely what happens when he comes across an original Declaration of Independence.
There it is.
Definitely a wow moment.
A wow moment, right. This is an extremely rare July 1776 printing of the Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Independence has to be one of the most important documents in the history of the species. Not only is it the foundational document of the United States, it has also become a template for independent nations all across the world. A document like this, especially if it is an original, will be very expensive. What is the story behind this document?
I've been in this market for years, and it's a thrill to handle something like this. So the condition of this copy is truly exceptional. This was sourced from a private collection. It has never been sold at public auction, and is highly sought after.
Historical documents like the Declaration of Independence are usually sought after, but when they have a verifiable origin like this one, well, that is when they get even more expensive. The story behind this document shows that Rick will have to cough up the coins if he wants to take this document home. Let's learn more.
I imagine your local tavern, when this was first penned up, there was a lot of people standing around going, damn, this is like putting your thumb to the most powerful country in the world at the time.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool about this one? You can actually see the pinholes here in the corners, which indicates that it was displayed publicly.
This just tells us how important this document would have been back then. Thousands of people would have walked up to it to read it. It was the most transformative document in the lives of hundreds of thousands, so this is a piece of history for sure. The only question left is, how much is this piece of history going for?
This was displayed at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. It's in exceptional condition. It's extremely scarce. $2 million.
Wow, $2 million. For Rick to pay that, he must be reasonably sure he could see someone to get it for at least $3 million. But if there is someone out there who could buy this document for $3 million, would this dealer choose to sell it for $2 million? Those are the numbers Rick has to work with. But before he dives into that, he wants to know if the document itself is authentic.
I'm a dealer and a museum collection builder and an expert in important historic documents.
Everything looks right to me, but like, I don't want to be 99% sure.
Right. I normally would have to take this out of the frame to authenticate it, but I've actually seen this exact copy before.
Well, it sounds like this is an original copy. Our expert has seen this before, and he knows exactly what signs to look for before deciding. If this is the real deal, then Rick has a tough negotiation on his hands. This buyer knows what he has. He knows the value, and he will not be lowballed by Rick. But that doesn't mean our favorite pawn dealer won't try. Let's first learn what our expert thinks it is worth.
100% legit.
Absolutely.
All right. Brass tacks, what is it worth?
This particular one is a really beautiful copy. It's just a wonderful broadside, an important relic of history, and the world changed when the first people looked at this very document.
Now, we all know that was not what Rick wanted to hear. He probably wanted to hear that he could get it for less. Now that he knows that the market value of this item is not less than $2 million, it would be even harder to get this seller to agree to a lowball offer. But Rick knows how to work people. Let's see how he works this negotiation.
It could be worth $2 million. You know, whenever you hear on the news something selling at an auction for a lot of money, that's the headline number. There is a ridiculous amount of fees. I would love to give you like $1.4 million.
Rick is correct. There are a ridiculous number of fees that chip off at the sale of any item at an auction. If this dealer took this document to an auction and tried to sell it, he wouldn't get the whole amount the document sells for. Even if it sells for $2 million, he'll have to pay the fees for listing at an auction, management fees, and maybe even storage fees. He knows this, and Rick knows it as well. So what does he do?
What do you make about the fees? I mean, you know, I know how it works. I would sell it to you for $1.5 million.
Okay. I'll meet you in the middle.
Now, That is a peach of a counteroffer. A quarter of the asking price gone just like that. But that's probably because even he knows that selling at an auction, which would be his only reasonable alternative, would probably only get him so much. That is a heck of a reduction. Will Rick accept it?
1.45, I think that's fair. I think we can both be happy with that.
You know, I think we got a deal.
Oh my goodness, I own the Declaration of Independence.
Wow. I really thought Rick would jump at that offer, but instead of seeing the $250,000 shaved off, Rick chose to instead see the $50,000 he could gain, and that was a good decision. The seller already shaved off a quarter. He could afford to shave off just an extra $50,000, right? And Rick was right. Now he owns a Declaration of Independence.
Money wired to you. I will pick it up from you tomorrow. I have a friend I wanted to show it to, so just keep it till tomorrow. And like I said, thanks again, Ben.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. So, you know, $1.45 million, no fees for the auctioneers, get the deal done today. I'm happy. Cue the fireworks.
I have a vintage guitar. It was custom made for my mother,
Okay.
Peggy Eames.
Vintage Gibson guitar. At first glance, this guitar doesn't look like something Rick would shell out millions for, but he just bought a piece of paper for more than $1 million. Who says miracles can't happen? Let's learn more about this fascinating guitar. Who made it? Who owns it? And how much is it worth?
Until it went on television, then it was the Little Rascals.
Correct.
And this was your mom's guitar.
Yes, a one-of-a-kind Gibson.
Sure this ain't a Peggy?
This guitar has been in the family for 75 years. A little piece of my heart would go with it to whoever was to buy it. Above $75,000 would definitely get me to part with the family heirloom.
Well, that doesn't sound bad. $75,000 isn't a terrible price for a family heirloom. I used to think that family heirlooms were supposed to be priceless, but sometimes they might be worth upwards of $75,000. But somehow I think Rick will not share that assessment of value.
On the Little Rascals, our gang.
They were just forming it up in 1925. She won a contest with a trip to Hollywood to go and try out for our gang. So she got in with the our gang.
That is very interesting. The pictures look like they verify this man's story, and they may end up being even more valuable than the guitar. I mean, the pictures are candid photos of a beloved TV show that is a huge part of America's cinematic history. Anyway, let's see what happens next.
Did you have any pictures with her with the guitar?
Yes.
All right, there we go, right there.
Here's where she starts playing the guitar. When she got too old to be in our gang, she started doing stage.
Now, that is a story, and that is the formula for items that sell for high prices. They must be authentic, and they must have a verifiable and interesting story. The story behind this guitar may not sound so interesting, but it is verifiable. Will that be enough for the price our seller wants? Let's find out.
Gibson guitars, even from the beginning when the company was called Gibson Mandolins, they used the best woods, the best construction. You don't see a lot of pre-war Gibsons anymore, you just don't. Most of the ones were bought by professional musicians, and they beat them to death.
Okay, now it gets interesting. The guitar alone, aside from the history it holds, is rare. Gibsons made the best guitars, but they only fell into the hands of musicians who used them to death. But this one is still in really good shape and looks to be an original. What else do we know? Let's talk to our expert.
Early Gibson, potentially a 1938.
Wow, that's an early one. Well, if it's a 38, it's a Super Jumbo. It's the first year that they made these. And it came to be one of Gibson's most famous guitars. Everybody has played and recorded with
Everything we've heard is telling us that our man may get close to that $75,000 if his guitar passes the test. But that is the thing with these items. Sometimes some deals just end up being too good to be true. Let's find out the issue with this deal. Here is what the expert thinks.
back looks in good shape. It's all rosewood. No cracks on the back. It's a nice piece of maple. It looks like maybe on the neck there. You got maybe one crack right here. The biggest thing is if there is number on the inside of it, ink stamped in there.
Those must have been a very anxious few seconds for our seller. Now he knows that he has the real deal. That means he will be probably a bit resistant to Rick trying to offer him a lowball offer. Of course, we know that does not mean Rick won't try. He is going to try really hard. Anyway, here is what happened next.
Custom work on it. In this condition, this is probably a $40,000 guitar. The custom stuff on it takes it into a different realm. So you have a first-year guitar with custom stuff on it. This could possibly be.
Well, that is what you get with the Pawn Stars. People love to think their precious family heirlooms are worth a lot, but just one meeting with Rick and his experts cuts down that expectation by a lot. Our seller wants $75,000, and now the expert says it may only have a market price of $70, and we all know that Rick is never going to buy for even $70. Let's see what he offers.
I'll give you $45,000 for the guitar.
Well, my intention was that the money would be used as a down payment on like a getaway cottage. Call it Peggy's Cabin. My asking price, 75, is really where I still want to stay on it.
There's very few people in the world.
And Rick is right. This could sit on his shelf for years. The fact that he is even offering $45,000 right out of the gate is incredible. Regular Rick would offer something like $30,000 at first, but our buyer isn't really feeling it. He wants his $75,000 and he isn't leaving without it. Let's see what Rick thinks of that.
That's just it. I'm not the end collector.
65 would probably move me on it.
I'll go 47. I assume all the risk after that, you know what I mean?
I think I'll hold it around a little bit longer.
Wow. Rick doesn't play around. Once he gives you a price, he doesn't move too much away from it. That is the way to business. That way, no one ever thinks they can push him too far around by grandstanding. The deal won't be made, and Rick is content with that. But sometimes, some deals are just too good to be true. Too good that even Rick overpays for them.
Proof high relief matte finish coin.
Okay. Where did you get this?
High relief coin. Okay, we know that coins can cost a fortune. Rick once tried to buy one for millions of dollars, but the fact that one coin costs a lot of money doesn't mean they all do. Now, this seller already has two things going for him. One, the coin looks like it is in great condition, and two, it is a pretty old coin. Here is what Rick thinks.
I won it at a poker game, believe it or not.
This is like one of the holy grails of American coins, and you won it in a poker.
Holy Grail? That is high praise. But would anyone really give you their extremely expensive coin because you beat them at poker? Or would they tell you that their very well done fake is an original and then give it to you after the game? Well, there is only one way to find out.
Came down to the pawn shop today to try to sell a 1922 proof coin. I don't know a lot about it, but the guy who lost it to me said it was really valuable. So hoping to get 20,000 out of it.
Well, $20,000 sounds like a modest price, right? And it sounds like just about the price of something you can win at a game of really high-stakes poker. But we all know that sellers may come into the pawn shop optimistic, but Rick has a way of knocking them down a peg or two. Here is what he thinks.
They were going to try and make some really high relief ones. What this means by high relief right here is the image really comes off the coin. It's much higher detail, and I don't know the exact story, but there was like some...
Wow, an old coin that is pretty rare and looks in such a perfect condition? Yeah, I think we can all see why Rick calls it the Holy Grail now. It is almost mythical. It is very rare, very known, and in great condition. This dude wants 20,000, and these are signs that he might get it. Let's learn more.
High relief peace dollar is one of the rarest coins in American history. It definitely shocks me that people will walk up to my counter and pull out an item worth $50,000 or $100,000 or more.
Exactly. Our guy wants 20,000, but this thing could easily be worth double that. Now, that is what makes this entire poker business a bit suspect. If he really won at playing poker, he must have put up at least 30,000. Does this guy play those sorts of games? Anyway, let's see what Rick thinks when our seller tells him how much he wants for it.
How much do you want for it?
20,000.
What, you want 20 for it? 20,000?
Do you think it's worth
Yeah,
it?
sure, no problem. Let's go.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. This morning, he was optimistic about being $20,000 richer, and now he could be worth even double that. The fact that Rick, who is notoriously cheap during negotiations, told him the truth about the value of this coin is amazing. But that only matters if the coin itself is the real deal. Let's find out.
Okay.
Definitely.
It is in an NGC holder, which is wonderful. The holder is completely intact and genuine, and the coin is perfectly legitimate.
Wow. This rarely ever happens, but when it does, it's so beautiful to see. For the first time in a long time, someone walks into the pawn shop and could be walking out with much more than they wanted. But we know Rick isn't going to give the absolute best price ever, right? Let's see what he offers for this coin.
I'm happier now.
I'll give you $65,000.
What about 90? I think 90 is fair.
Oh, come on now. Rick is being really fair here. $65,000 when you could have been happy with $20,000 is a lot, but our buyer is already thinking this may be worth $100,000 and he wants a bigger piece of that pie. How does Rick negotiate? What is his next move? Let's see.
It's a deal.
All right.
Okay. All right, let's go up front. I'll write you up.
I made 80,000 on the coin. Super excited about it. Definitely going to keep playing poker. Hopefully I get another coin like this sometime.
Yeah, keep playing poker, dude. Maybe next time someone will try to give you the actual Holy Grail. What insane luck this dude had. Next up, we have an item that is so expensive that Rick had to really question his motives for buying it. Let's find out how that went.
Hello, how can I help you?
I have an ancient Roman coin I'd like to sell. It's from 42 BC.
Is that what I think it is?
It's 2 daggers and it says Ides of March.
Ancient Roman coin. Wait, a coin from 42 BC? That is 42 years before the death of Christ. Now, as far as regular coins go, coins from that era are not that rare. They are rare enough to cost money, but not to cost a fortune. But this coin doesn't look like a regular Roman coin. It looks like something else.
I think the coin is the Holy Grail of Roman coins. If I can sell it, I've got my eye on some rare coins that are coming up for auction in about a month.
That's pretty cool. That says Ides of March.
Yeah, at least. The inscription on that coin has become a huge part of popular entertainment, that a coin like this, if authenticated, is always going to cost a lot of money. The history behind that phrase and the face on it, Brutus, just makes it even more valuable. In fact, Brutus only made the coin to celebrate himself as the great guy who killed Caesar. Let's learn more.
What I think is interesting too, if you look at the other side, he put his portrait on it. And this was one of the things that Julius Caesar got criticized for, was putting his portrait on a coin while he was living.
It's to this day in politics, you know, you'll have a guy running for office criticizing everything the other guy's.
When it comes to selling coins, you have got to take 3 things into account. First is rarity, second is shape, and third is story. This coin might not have a great story specifically attached to it, but it is very rare and is in exceptional shape for something over 2,000 years old. So how much does our guy want for it?
$150,000.
Okay, I know they're worth a ridiculous amount of money, but let me call a friend of mine and take a look at it. It's a lot of money, and I want his opinion on whether it's real or not. It's not that I don't trust you, it's just I don't trust anybody. And we'll see if we can make a deal.
Sounds great.
$150,000 is a lot of money for a coin, but Rick knows better than anyone just how expensive these coins can be. But before he makes an offer, he needs to know he is looking at the real deal, and that is why he's called the expert to come and look at it. Here is what the expert thinks.
This one has the advantage of having a very large planchet where you can see the whole design, and the abbreviation of Brutus above his head is totally clear. Can I take a closer look at it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, thank you. Such a famous coin, and it looks, this is the real deal.
Well, looks like our dealer was correct. This could be worth up to $150,000, but our seller must know that Rick is never going to pay that. He isn't a collector, he just buys coins to sell them. That means he needs to make a profit, and to make a profit, that coin needs to get to a much lower price. Let's see how the negotiations go.
I would give you $100,000 for it.
I could come down maybe to 140.
This is the way I look at it. I have to set it off, I have to encapsulate it, and this whole process takes like a year. If I give you $110,000, I know I will at least break even.
I've got to have more than that.
110 said.
Yeah, I don't think I can go below 140.
Rick went really high here. Unfortunately, he couldn't reach an agreement with our seller. You'd think the last 2 deals have shown the most expensive coins you could ever find in the pawn world. But you would be wrong, because this next deal involves a coin worth over $30 million.
There is one coin that is considered the holy grail of coin collecting, the 1933 Double Eagle $20 gold piece. And it was auctioned off in 2021.
The real holy grail. You know the coin is really worth it when it's got Rick giggling like a 10-year-old. But could one coin really be that expensive? Why would it even be so expensive? Was it forged in the fires of Mount Doom? What could possibly make one coin so expensive? Well, here is a crash course.
That's amazing. We have a 1933 Double Eagle $20 gold piece. Some people still consider it the most beautiful coin ever. Teddy Roosevelt thought all of our coins were ugly.
Wow, the duality of man. They say this coin is the most beautiful coin in the world, and that sounds about true. It looks so good even though it's almost 100 years old. But that isn't the whole story. Why did Roosevelt want this gold out of circulation? Well, you see, the coin was made from gold.
Roosevelt, he created the Gold Confiscation Act. And basically with a stroke of a pen, he made it illegal to own large amounts of gold. Said that everyone's got to turn their gold in at the bank and take those gold coins and get paper money.
Now, that is an interesting story. This coin isn't one of 10 or one of a dozen. It is one of one. Any other person who owns another version of this coin would be a criminal and would be going to jail. That is why this coin is extremely expensive. But that isn't the whole story. If owning this coin is so illegal,
International intrigue.
Yes.
So what's the exact story with this coin?
In the 1940s, King Farouk of Egypt was the biggest coin collector in the world and purchased the coin in the United States, applied for an export license.
what makes this particular one legal? That is a story like no other for a coin like no other. Not only is this coin in great shape, it also has a great story and is extraordinarily rare. That is why this coin is so expensive. But hold on, because Rick isn't in a hurry to just buy this coin. He wants to learn everything there is to know about it.
And the owner would like to sell it.
Correct, yes.
And how much does he want for it?
We're looking for offers over $30 million.
Okay. All right. I do have a client who's interested.
Of course, Rick doesn't want to spend that kind of money on one coin. It is a huge risk, but he has a collector who wants to buy it, so he will be trying to negotiate on behalf of that collector. But before that happens, Rick needs to know that this is the real deal. Here is what his expert thinks.
The coin is, fabulous. It's also in amazing condition. It's a MS65, which is gem condition. Just basically the way it was made with a few little bag marks. Authenticity is.
The greatest coin there is? That is really high praise. How much would you pay for the greatest coin there is? Would you pay over $30 million? Maybe when you have that kind of money, you can go hunting for the coin. Anyway, will Rick get this coin or will he have to leave the deal for someone else? Let's find out.
$30 million, which the price is what someone is willing to pay.
Well, one of the biggest things that's changed in the last 10 years is how many billionaires and multi-billionaires started collecting coins. At least one of the collectors, his goal is to have a complete set of U.S. coins.
That is why this coin is so expensive. The owner knows he can state his price and people will have to either put up or shut up. No one can undersell him. He owns the whole market and he is the only one who decides the value of the coin. So if he insists that this is a $30 million coin, well, there's really nothing anyone can do. The fact that the coin is rare enough for billionaires to want it as a part of their collection only makes the seller's position even stronger. So what does Rick think?
I just got the one, and he's willing to do $25 million. That includes my small commission, and that's what he's offering.
Look, the coin market has increased so much, so many new collectors.
This seller isn't the sort of guy who walks into Rick's shop to pawn off an heirloom. He knows what he has, knows what he wants, and is willing to reject 8-figure offers to get what he really wants. Will Rick budge? Is there some room here to maneuver? Let's find out.
Okay, yeah.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Put it away. See, not in my hands. You have it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
all the luck in the world with it.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for looking at it.
Have a good one.
Cheers. Look, it's a unique item and I am flexible.